here we go. On 3, 2, 1, we are speaking with one of my favorite artists, the one and only Ricky Warwick. Of course, the new album is called When Life Was Hard and Fast, coming out in early 2021. I have, as I told you just before, have pre-ordered it from Japan because whether there's a bonus track or not, it's Ricky, and I got to get the best, and Japanese CDs are the best. So there you go. And listen, as we say in Montreal, bonjour. How are you?
Bonjour. Comment allez-vous? I'm very good, thanks, brother. I'm doing okay. Doing okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I see that you're doing a lot of the online streaming shows, just you and a guitar, and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's get to this album. You know, I'm a huge fan of everything you've done. I'm a huge fan of what Scott's done and what Damon Johnson when he used to be. And I love that sound. I love what you create. So talk to me about this one. And for folks who don't know, there's sort of an added bonus. It's almost as if you're the new lead singer for Buckcherry in a sense, because you've got Xavier Muriel there and Keith. Talk to me about how this little band came together.
Yeah, you know, we joke that it's Buckstar Riders that we made the album with because we'd Robbie Crane play bass on it as well. So you got me and Robbie from obviously Blackstar Riders, and Xavier and Keith from Buckcherry. You know, the story really came about. I met Keith when Damon left Blackstar Riders, and we were talking about replacements. Keith's name came up, and I knew who Keith was, but we never met. And we got together up in Barney's Beanery here in LA, and we chatted. And you know, and Keith would have been a great replacement for Damon. As it turned out, we got Christian, which is a whole other story, which is great. But Keith, you know, met out of interest and out of respect, but he'd already decided that he wanted to go into the songwriting production thing and didn't want to really tour anymore. One of the main reasons he left Buckcherry. So I think as tempting as it was, he said, look, thank you for asking me, blah, 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 blah. But Keith and I hit it off, and he said, let's get together and write a song. I said, sounds good. So I went over to his studio the following week. I had the guts of the song Fighting Heart, played it to him. He loved it. And we finished it together. And we did the demo of it, and it sounded great. And I'm kind of going, you know, this guy should produce my record. We should do the record together. So, I literally called him up and said, like, let's just do a record. Let's just do my next solo record. You produce it. We'll co-write the tunes together. And he went, I'm in. And that just evolved from that. We did a bunch of demos. And then when we came to record the album, Keith suggested, you know, we get Xavier down to play drums. And, I said, well, we got to get, let's get Robbie in to play bass. He's my favorite bass player in the world. So let's get him in there. And that was it. It was really organic. It was really natural. It was really fun. And, Keith and I are, firm friends. We sort of get together at least once a week to work on stuff. So, yeah, it was a good thing.
Do you think at some point, though, there might be a time where it becomes a band and becomes its own thing, not a Ricky Warwick solo album, and you and these guys just say, hey, we've got a sound. We because they're great.
Thank you. Keith and I handled all the guitars in the studio.
Right.
Obviously, you've got a great rhythm section with Robbie and Xavier there. Yeah. I enjoy doing the solo thing. I enjoy the revolving door of who is in the Fighting Hearts and not sticking to the same people. You know, I'm in Blackstar Riders, and I'm very proud and love being in Blackstar Riders. But I'm in a band where I have to respect four other people's opinions and all the democracy and the fighting and the argument. Not that there's much in Blackstar Riders, but there's certain things that come with being in a band and that team player mentality. The solo stuff, Mitch, just gives me a chance to be a total narcissist. And I'm going back to Blackstar Riders, I'm in a band with two phenomenal guitar players. I love to play guitar, but I'm not going to get a look in with those guys. I bring my ideas in and give them to them, and they put the sparkle on it, and that's really the last I hear them. With this, I get the chance to play my guitars. I get the chance to do all the vocal. It's just real. It's real narcissism, and it's something that I enjoy, and I need that outlet.
Yep.
Personally.
Talk to me a little bit about the solo career, because when you look at Stairwell Troubadour, which was the acoustic stuff, and you even covered a Britney Spears song, and you look at When Patsy Cline Was Crazy, and you look at Hard on Trees, and there's a very distinctive sound to each of them. And I speak of experience because I'm a massive fan, and I have this 200 and whatever song playlist that I keep in my phone at all times. Is it important for you to not say the same thing? Because if you listen to Love Many, Trust Few, that's almost a pop record in a sense. It has a bit more sort of an upbeat feel to it. And then, is it important for you to keep developing and not just regurgitate the same album and the same sound time after time?
Absolutely, 100%. I think you mentioned Love Many Trust Few. I mean, it's different scenarios in my life. I was spending a lot of time in Nashville around about the time of making that record, and I think you can hear that in the sound in that record. Belfast Confetti is when I first really started writing about being Northern Irish and being from Northern Ireland, and I took that one step further on Patsy Cline when I worked with my good buddy Sam Robinson, and we literally wrote two records about growing up in Northern Ireland and how it affected us and people and places from there. And this time around, I'm very aware of I don't really sing about Northern Ireland at all in the new record because I've done it. I don't want people going, yeah, we get it, Ricky. We know you're from Belfast. Yeah, we know that, So this time around, I took a sort of more different approach, and more, for want of a better cliche, very rock and roll, very stripped down, very sort of Johnny Thunders, Tom Petty, just simplifying everything as much as I could lyrically and just more direct. To answer your question, I like to approach every album with a different angle and try and give people something that they've not heard before.
Well, which is a good thing. And just real quick, Punching Thunder and Born Fighting from that album, Belfast Confetti, just
Thank you.
Classic tracks.
Thank you very much.
In terms of you as an artist right now, there are some artists that have to stay working. Metallica can probably stay off the road for 10 years, and, Mick Jagger can probably stay off the road for 10 years. But what is it for you to not be able to go out and do the acoustic show or the acoustic show with Damon or a Black Star Riders? What does it mean for you on every level, financially, mentally, physically, just to sort of sit at home and go, fuck, I don't have a plan tomorrow?
I think that's what I said when we went into it way back in March. I was like, fuck. But I think I'm quite a resilient person. And I thought, okay, this is happening. It's beyond my control. How am I going to embrace this and get the best out of it that I can? I'm lucky in a situation that my wife is a very hard worker and she has a great job and she's able to do that fully from home. So we have an income coming in from that. Obviously when you're playing 100+ shows a year and that's taken away from you financially, the fallout from that is massive. It's huge. But, there's some money that comes in from publishing and songwriting, which I'm thankful for and is great. And that's nice to see coming in every month. But I need to work, and the internet gave me the opportunity with the stage it shows to do the acoustic, streaming shows live, which I've been doing, and they've been great. They've been pretty successful and financially and just artistically as well. For me to be able to do those once a month has kept things moving and kept me busy. And I just hunkered down. I've been writing more than I've ever written. If that were possible, I got to read all those books I didn't read. I got to be home with my family for a full year, something I thought I'd never get to do. So I'm trying to look at the positives out the whole thing, Mitch, and just trying to stay as positive as I can. Been writing with other people, been writing for other people, just trying to be as upbeat and keep moving forward as much as I can. But obviously not playing live is a huge wrench.
It's got to be awful. And now creatively, there we go. I knew I could say it. Creatively though, does it change? Because when you're on the road and you see stuff happen, or you're sitting alone in a hotel room, there's a different kind of inspiration.
Sure.
Have you been very active creatively, other than just maybe writing songs for other people, where you just go, okay, maybe there'll be 2 solo albums next year, maybe there'll be 2 Black Star Rider albums?
Right.
Is the creative process the same, sort of being stuck in a quagmire as to being on the road and living life and going, oh, I can write about that, oh, I can write about him, oh, I can write about
Sure. Personally, it's given me more time to reflect on everything, and I think that's good. I've had time to reflect on me, who I am, what I think I am, the impression that I have of myself, my family, my friends, my life. It's given me a lot of time to think about a lot of stuff. Regards being creative, the new Black Star Riders album is written and it's demoed, it's done. We're just waiting to get the chance to go and record it. I've already written and I'm in the process of demoing the next solo album. So it's already done before this
Good.
one's even out yet.
It's good for me.
So yeah, the wheels keep turning, and I think what this whole pandemic thing has made a lot of us realize that life is really fucking short, really short, and to have a year yanked away from doing what you love in the way that you love doing it is a real eye opener, and I think that spurred me on to be, even more productive. Going, I ain't got, who knows how many years we got left. So I think that's given me a real kick up the backside as regards just writing even more and trying to get things finished. And I love to write. I just love writing songs. I mean, I just love it. I just get inspired all the time, and it makes me really, really happy. And I've had uninterrupted time this year to do that, which has been great.
Yeah, it's great, and more albums the better. In terms of the Almighty, you're doing the Ricky Warwick Almighty Christmas Acoustic Lockdown Show on December 12th, and I'm just going to write here, tickets available at stageit.com.
Yes, sir.
The last time you came through this part of the world, Montreal, Ottawa, you were with Judas Priest, and we had a conversation. I said, why don't you ever do the Almighty song? And you almost were taken aback and went, no. Some things are better left in the past, and we don't touch them. And and you almost seem annoyed. To be fair, you almost seem annoyed that I asked, which is fair, by the way. But why the change of heart? And did you sort of look back and start reflecting on the Almighty and going, yeah, let's.
Well,
Yeah.
There's two things here, Mitch. I think, trying to recall our conversation, you thought, why don't we throw an Almighty song into Black Star Riders? And that's something that is a no-no for me, because Black Star Riders we were trying to establish the identity of the band coming out of Lizzy, and we were slowly, obviously, cutting back on the amount of Lizzy songs we were playing, where we had it to a point.
And I was telling you how important Bandaged Knee was as a song, and you needed to play it live again.
But solo-wise, I've always played Almighty songs in my sets. Anytime I've toured solo-wise, there's always been Almighty songs in my sets. Now, when I go out with the Fighting Hearts as well, my solo band, again, 4 or 5 Almighty songs in the set. So it's not that I don't want to play them. It's just the environment has to be right, and I think it has to be more myself and not the Black Star Riders scenario. It has to be Ricky Warwick, and then I get the free rein to cover the sort of whole catalogue. I still love playing those songs. I don't know if I would love going back and reforming the band and all the drama that comes with that. But, I think we stood for something. We burned very brightly. I had a great 10 years in that band. And, it was the foundation for everything that went on afterwards. But, yeah, I have no problem revisiting those songs in the right environment. Absolutely not.
Well, which is good. So let me just quickly ask you, since I'm on the Almighty, here's a band that had, half a dozen records, a lot of great songs, Bandage Knee, whatever, Jesus Loves You But I Don't, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you talk to somebody in the UK, whether it's Dave Ling at Classic Rock, they're like, man, I love this band, a great band. And then you talk to an American, they go, I have no idea who you're talking about. And it's the same with Gothard, with Thunder, it's Status Quo even. Sometimes you go Status, because people go, I don't know. Why didn't it translate to North American shores? And is it record company? Is it management? Is it just it's the wrong song for the wrong market? What's
it wasn't for the one of trying. We got off to a great start on the first couple of records. We're over here. We did a couple of hit and run tours of sort of New York and upstate New York, and we came over here, and I think we were the first European band to play Ricky Rackman's Cat House, and we're number one at Metal Radio and Concrete and back in all those good old days. And then it's cliched as it sounds, the record company thing. We couldn't get on a tour. We wanted to get on a support tour. We just couldn't get on a tour. We eventually sort of acquiesced and did a 3-month headline club tour in '93 when Power Tripping came out, which nearly killed us. The usual story, the show in New York's packed, the show in LA's packed, everywhere in between. You're playing to the bar staff and, the 3 diehard fans that turn up. And we just couldn't really, and, different people coming and going, and the labels really hurt us, as cheesy as that sounds. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but it did. And, everywhere else in the world, in Asia and all over Europe, the band's, gaining ground and doing really well and selling records and playing great shows. And suddenly there's this huge country that we all wanted to to break. We were all desperate to do well in America, and we just couldn't get arrested. And at some point, that you just got to go, okay, well, maybe we're just going to have to concentrate on where it's happening, and that was really it. But definitely, we were certainly annoyed about it, and we were. We would have loved to have done more in the United States of America, and I certainly feel that we should have and we could have, but everything just seemed to transpire against us, sadly.
And listen, I'm guilty of it as well. You put out an album in 2000 called The Almighty, which was on, I'm trying to think what label it was on. Anyway, but
so it's Sanctuary.
Right. And they approached me and they said, hey, we've got they're back together. It's been a while. You want to do an interview? And I remember specifically thinking, well, who are they? And then they explained, right. And then they explained it. Like, oh, yeah, and then they were great in the UK and number 5 with Power Tripping. And they literally had to school me as to who it was. And I wasn't that I was a dumb fan. It's just, I was a North American fan. And you're just like,
sure.
Oh, but I'm glad they schooled me, because I have loved all that
Thank
stuff. You. So, is it similar in terms of what's going on with Black Star Riders? Because I know you go to the UK and you're on this festival and that festival, and you're in Germany and everybody's happening. And then you come to North America, and yes, you got the Judas Priest tour, but when you try to do side shows and stuff, it suddenly has become, oh, well, it's the guy that was in Thin Lizzy, and we're sort of, is it the same kind of thing?
Yes and no. It's different in that you have guys that are a lot older that cannot jump in a van for 7 weeks and just go off and play clubs. We've got mortgages, we've got kids who, you've got Scott who's phenomenal but is getting up there in years. Scott's 70 next year, and you have to take all that into consideration. When we tour in Europe and anywhere else, we make money and we can pay our bills and put food on the table and do well. When we come to the United States of America, we lose money, and older, we're not prepared to do that with people with responsibilities and people that rely on us, and that's a simple fact. The Priest tour was great. It was great for us. It was really, really good. They looked after us superbly on that tour, and it was a real honor to be part of that whole thing. And it would have been great to come back and do some club shows sort of straight away, but we just, we couldn't, sadly, just couldn't seem to get that together. We just got to look at everything, responsibly now, sadly, because that's where we're at.
Let me.
We all live. Sorry, Mitch. We don't all live. Scott's in London.
Right.
Christian's up in Oregon. It's only me and Rob in LA. Chad's over in Pennsylvania. So the costs involved, they're phenomenal at bringing people together. And people rightly so want to take home money at the end of it. Being away from your family for 6-7 weeks, you want to take home a chunk of change at the end of that. And, why not?
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of times fans seem to forget, the economics. I was talking to Brian Tatler about bringing Diamond Head over.
Sure.
And I was sitting in the Brass Monkey in Ottawa, and we were having this conversation. He goes, you know what? This is our first show of the North American tour, and we're already $24,000 in the hole because we had to fly the whole staff over. We had to get permits. And you can't afford to be $24,000 in the hole, And I think sometimes fans forget that. They're like, well, Black Star Riders should play North Dakota. And it's like, great.
Yeah.
But we got to fly, Scott,
It's getting everybody together,
and the permits and
the permits and the visas. Now, I mean, it isn't getting easier. The governments of the world are making these things harder. You got Brexit about to kick in Europe, which is going to be a nightmare for touring bands over there. The cost of UK musicians getting American work visas is astronomical, always has been. Which is why a lot of European bands come over here and use American crews, because they can't afford to bring their own road crew with them. It's tough, and like you said, before you've even played a chord, you're already, 10, 20 grand in the hole with flights and expenses. So your first 3 or 4 weeks are making up that money, and it's only really the last probably 2 or 3 weeks that you'll make money. And sadly, when you've no responsibilities and when you are 20, 21, you don't care. You get the cheapest van, you stay in the cheapest motels. You stay up all night drinking because you're invincible. It doesn't matter if you lose money. You make an impact and you get to play. But like I said, when you're older and people are relying on you and you have bills to pay, sadly that changes everything.
Yeah, the good old tours of where you sleep is whoever groupie picks you up that night. You go, sleeping on her couch tonight. All right. Before we move on here, the Black Star Riders is one of the new bands, and for the lack of a better word, even though everybody's a veteran in it, but it's a new band that I just love. All Hell's Breaking Loose, Killer Instinct, and it just go on. But the band has gone through lineup changes, which in a sense has sort of refreshed the band every time. But on the other hand, it also keeps it away from being a band. Talk to me about those changes and how, getting rid of, not getting rid of, but, Marco moving on and Robbie coming in, it refreshes the water, but it keeps it from being this one unit.
Right.
Just talk to me about that and how do you move forward with a new lineup all the time and just keeping it fresh and just keeping it a band?
Great question. Again, I hate to bring it up, but it's definitely an older thing. It's people are older, and I'll just say for the record, nobody's been fired from Black Star Riders. Everybody's maybe that's not good. Maybe that said something about me. Everybody's left of their own accord, and we didn't want them to leave at the time, but they've made the reasons, and people leave for different reasons. Marco wanted to go play with the Dead Daisies. Jimmy wanted to go and play some shows with Rat. Damon wanted to get back to being a frontman, writing his own songs, touring on his schedule. I respect all that. I don't see why we should give up. I don't see why, if we're writing songs and we still feel current and passionate and we're still into it, why should you give up just because somebody leaves? Why should you stop? Because somebody says you should? No. I mean, we every time that's happened, we've ridden out the storm. We've gone, okay, who can we bring in to keep this thing solidified and keep pushing forward? And we've been lucky that we've done that. The people that have come into the band have been amazing. Robbie Crane coming in was a game changer. Robbie's unbelievable. And, I'm so close to Robbie just personally as a friend and as a confidant and Black Star Riders. I just, he's been great. He's been a huge breath of fresh air for the band. Chad Saliga coming in, what an amazing drummer. What a lovely human being. And then Christian coming in, who's an entirely different guitar player. Damon's so dynamic, but so is Christian in a totally different way. And it just fit it. It gave us a kick up the backside. We know, I think we bring people in what's going to work. And 50% of it's personality and being able to hang and being able to fit in and as well as obviously being a great musician. And everybody we've brought in has that in abundance. And, it still feels like we've got unfinished business. To me, it still feels vital. I still feel we've got something to say. I still think we've got shows to play. I still think we've got songs to write. When that goes away, that will be the time for me to stop. When your heart's not in it more, that's when my heart's in it 100%. So why should I stop?
Well, I hope I hope you continue, because I look at the 4 albums and they've all got these incredibly classic tracks on it. It's a sound that I love and it works. And, keep going. Now, before we leave, there was talk or over the last few years, you've done these one and off Thin Lizzy shows. Now, of course, the pandemic has sort of wiped out any kind of potential planning for anything. But are we done with Thin Lizzy, or will there be a 45th anniversary show or a 50th? Wherever we are in the anniversaries, is that still something that's on the table where we might just go to Donington or whatever festival is going to be left and just say, hey, for today we're Thin Lizzy. For today we're doing, Rosalie, and we're doing, we're not doing Black Star Riders. We're not doing Blood, Fire, and Love.
Right. I think so. I think Scott will always want to play those songs, and rightly so. I very much take the role of just, I'm happy. Well, I'm elated to be there and sing those songs. Everything else I kind of leave up to Scott. It's his thing. And if Scott wants to do it and wants me to sing, I will be there with bells on. Absolutely. And I think there will be a few more one-offs. I think Scott, like I said, they're his songs that he wrote with Phil and the boys. He's invested in them and he loves to play them. And why shouldn't he? And so, yeah, I could certainly see, as long as Scott wants to do it and he wants me to sing, I will be there.
You'll be there. Now, just speaking of Scott, when you did some of the last Thin Lizzy shows, you had Tom Hamilton, you had Scott Travis. What was that like, having like this massive power metal guy with you? And then, of course, Tom Hamilton, who is easily, to me, the most underrated bass player. You cannot think of Walk This Way or Sweet Emotion and go, oh, it's all about Stephen and Joe Perry. It's like, no, it's all about Tom Hamilton. So...
that was one of those moments for me where you've got you're on stage and you look around and you see Scott Gorham and you see Tom Hamilton and you've got Scott Travis behind, and you're like, wow. I mean, that was the 2016 lineup when we went out and did those shows. And again, just amazing players. Tom is such a sweetheart of a guy, and arguably one of the greatest bass lines of all time at the start of Sweet Emotion. Who's going to argue with that? Last year when we went out and did some Lizzy shows, we did the Black Rose album. We had Troy from Mastodon playing bass, and he was again phenomenal. I'm a huge Mastodon fan, and Troy's just such a great musician and a great guy. So the pedigree and the respect and the love for Thin Lizzy that these guys have, and then they bring that to the table and they're playing those songs. It's just wonderful, and obviously Scott and Damon just work so well together, doing all the chill guitar harmonies. So it's a real pleasure to be part of it. It's a real honor to be part of it, and it's really easy because those guys make it easy because their playing is so great.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it's just a great thing. And I think, like I said, you can see Scott bristle with pride when he's playing those songs. They mean so much to him, as rightly they should.
And they mean a lot to music fans as well. I mean, you listen to John Bon Jovi talk about his love for Thin Lizzy, and he's covered Jailbreak, and he's covered The Boys Are Back in Town, and you go, wow, when the biggest band in the world, arguably from the 80s, is telling you that these songs are special, you sort of go, yeah, okay, I'm paying attention. So
they are. I mean, there's so much in them, and there's so much to them, and Phil's poetry is just so beautiful and unique. There's nobody like them, and there never will be anybody like them. And to me, that needs to be celebrated. And I think that's what we try to do when we go out and do the Lizzy stuff. It's a celebration of all things Phil and all things Lizzy.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Ricky Warwick, When Life Was Hard and Fast, coming out in early 2021, and I picked up my Japanese version. I have already prepaid for it. That's what I do. You got to support the bands. Ricky, always a pleasure, and hopefully,
thank you, Mitch.
Hopefully, the clouds of COVID will lift, and you can come back to Montreal, or I can go out to LA, and people can just go see shows again because we need it.
Well, that's the plan. I'm planning on doing some Fighting Heart shows. North America side next year for sure. It's a lot easier for me to tour the Fighting Hearts than it is, sadly, Black Star Riders, just because that's just the way that it is. But I'm definitely planning on doing some Fighting Heart shows.
Good. And do you think Keith and Xavier will join you, or you're going to have to... Who knows?
Who knows? I will certainly ask those guys. It would be great to have them along. I mean, I think there's if it's over here in North America, there's definitely more chance of them, obviously doing some shows
popping
over here because it's...
Yeah. Which means you're going to have to learn some Buckcherry songs now. Can you, Ricky Warwick singing "Lit Up"? Come on.
I don't know. I'll leave that to Buckcherry, man. That's their thing.
Great band. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. As we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mitch.
Always a pleasure. Cheers. And folks, pick up the album, buy it. Don't stream it. Buy
Thank you.
Cheers. All right, perfect. Let me